This is CBC Windsor. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jennifer LaGrassa. Katarina is away. We begin with an update on the gas investigation in downtown Wheatley. While officials are optimistic the situation has been resolved, a lot of questions and uncertainty remain. CBC's Jacob Barker reports.
This area of Wheatley has been deemed safe again following the discovery of some dangerous gas that was found behind this library on Thursday afternoon. Now, residents who were told they have to leave their homes were returning this morning, and residents who live in the area here were left taking stock.
I have to believe in our community, and yes, I have to believe in the science that they're going to get it fixed. I think it's a wake-up call to our governments to make sure that that we do have the resources to to fix these wells.
The municipality evacuated 30 households, and an expert was called in overnight from Alberta to test the site. The gas outside of a very small perimeter hasn't been detected in the area since 7 p.m. on Thursday night.
We have no indication of any gas outside of the immediate area that is coming out of the ground. We did hand expose a spot this morning, and we believe we found an old water well. There's water in it, and we've installed a bit of a vent stack on it just to move the gas away from the lower levels and above so that it dissipates a little bit more.
Officials were satisfied with the response.
They were at the front of the incident in 2021, and they remained on scene for over a year. They protected their community, and they quickly got on the trucks and they were out there straight away yesterday.
Everything worked like it was supposed to yesterday afternoon. From identification to understanding perimeters and what needed to happen, getting all the right people here. We had our ministry inspectors here within a few hours. So it was really good to see everything work the way it was supposed to.
But the fire chief says residents need to remain vigilant, and if they do smell gas,
call 911. That's the only message I can keep giving out. Monitoring
is continuing in the area, and an investigation into this incident continues.
It appears that there was a water well there back in the 1930s, and a building blew up on that site in the 1930s. So we're pretty confident that that's what it is.
Not only that, this well is just steps from an area of wells that have been monitored since August of 2021. That's when an explosion rocked the downtown center and left people out of their homes for a long time. They are looking to see if there is any connection.
It may not be related to those sites. It seems quite coincidental, but that's part of what the University of Windsor is doing, is checking the gas analysis against what we had to begin with from our original site against this, to see if we have a different source, if it's just a water well, or if it's somehow connected to these deeper sources that we've had at the other site.
And while there is some reassurance from officials, some residents remain on edge.
It is scary, because how do we know when it's going to happen again? And are we going to be the next ones to have to get evacuated and not be able to come home?
As you can see, they have fenced off an area around the library, and it's going to remain closed until further notice. Watson says that once the suspected water well has been established, the next steps will likely involve excavating the site, bringing in a drill, and, as she put it, properly abandoning the site. Jacob Barker, CBC News, Wheatley.
Colette Kennedy is here. Colette, man, it's hot out there.
Yes, it is. You can understand why we're in a heat warning. In fact, there's a lot of things going on. Now, the current temperature is 32 degrees, but it feels like 42. So that is still in place. But the other thing is that there are some strong storms just across the international border, and they're tracking eastward. Now, they are pulling a bit further north, and there is some weakening occurring. But you can see in Michigan, severe thunderstorm watch. And so here we go. Southwestern Ontario Environment Canada has also now issued a severe thunderstorm watch because of the risk that some of these could have some heavier downpours, damaging winds in there, and even some small hail. So we'll have some active weather, and then through the overnight dry out, 21 degrees. And tomorrow, how about we do it again? Not quite as hot or humid, but still 30, feeling like 38.
Oh, wow. Thanks, Colette.
Mm-hmm.
City of Windsor is trying something new at a few parks. They're letting nature take its course. CBC's Patrice Thayal has more.
The grass will be allowed to grow long in dozens of Windsor's parks in a push towards naturalization.
We're allowing for essentially nature to take its course. So we've reduced some of the maintenance that's happening. It's not to say we've eliminated maintenance in these areas. There's still ongoing maintenance obligations to maintain these areas in an appropriate way, but it's in a different way than perhaps people have been become accustomed to over the years.
At this park, like many across the city, specific areas have grass that will not be cut, creating a naturalized area within a park. Such spaces foster diverse landscapes that attract pollinators and improve air quality. The city did not provide a list of which parks or exactly how many will be naturalized, but said the goal is to support environmental resilience and allow native grasses and plants to grow to improve soil health. For some, it's in their way.
I get 50 mosquito bites. Now it's itchy.
The grandfather grew up right by this park, always freshly cut, but welcomes a change.
The only negative thing is I'm afraid of the ticks for the kids. That's the only thing, but it looks very natural and it's nice. I like it. It feels like you're out in nature. It's very nice. It doesn't look like you're in the middle of a city, even though we are right here.
Their neighbor, who lives next to one of the park entrances, is enjoying seeing butterflies he hasn't in 37 years of living here.
I appreciate it. I really do, with the butterflies and all that. We've all got all kinds of them out here. And I don't know, they cut the trails. And as long as they keep it trimmed like that, should be no problem.
The key is to remove invasive species. That's the message from this author and advocate for habitat regrowth.
Naturalization is not abandonment. It's a different kind of management tool with a focus on, for example, pollinators, supporting pollinators, having healthier soil, saving water, saving from emissions from lawn care equipment.
Kieran says a regularly mowed buffer will be maintained along sidewalks, pathways, and adjacent residential properties. But he says people shouldn't be walking through the naturalized areas. Pratish Dayal, CBC News, Windsor.
And speaking of the outdoors, there's a new pier coming to Windsor's Sandwich Town, right at the foot of Mill Street. Construction is expected to start soon, with the pier opening by the fall.
So today we're here to announce the new pier that'll come down here at the end of Mill Street, known as the Queen's Dock. So the concept of the pier is based on First Nations learnings. It's all a path of learning. So there's actually two piers joined by a bridge. And what we want to encourage, because there's disappearing waterfront as new developments come in, is for people to come down and enjoy the river, come down and fish. It's part of the food security. It's part of many of the people in the West End here fish because that's their food. So it's great that now they have a pier. They're not going to be told to go away. They have depth. That will have a fish cleaning station for them. Russell Noddy from Turtle Island at the university, and I've been working for years trying to think of a way that we get First Nations interpretive center or signage or material here. And the Gordie Howe International Bridge, the WDBA came forward and said, we have some funding we'd like to provide to you.
I've been living in this area, West End, let's say, probably 40 years now. When I first moved from Walpole to attend school, I think there's a great potential and opportunity for people from the community to come here and meet one another, chat with one another, visit with one another, and just learn about each other. I think that is really, really exciting.
We really like the idea of having an initiative in our community benefits plan that did go into the water and did celebrate, because we go over the water. So there was a lot of symmetry there, and it did reflect a lot of the priorities that we had in place, specifically around providing gathering spaces and celebrating the region.
A 46-year-old man is facing charges after a Windsor child was sexually assaulted, say police. And a warning to viewers, this story contains disturbing details. Windsor police launched an investigation Wednesday after reports that a 4-year-old child had been sexually assaulted. The assault was allegedly done by a family friend who was alone with the child. Police say the parent got the child medical attention and alerted police, but by that time, the suspect had crossed the border into Michigan. An arrest warrant was issued, and U.S. Marshals officials, along with the OPP, found the suspect at a home in Royal Oak. He'll be brought back to Windsor to face aggravated sexual assault and sexual interference charges. Donald Trump says the U.S. is terminating all trade discussions with Canada. That's effective immediately. The U.S. president took to social media to deliver the news. CBC's Rafi Boudjikanian has more from Ottawa.
Right before a Canada Day long weekend, he poured a lot of cold water on the idea that this country and the U.S. are on their way to some kind of agreement on a trade deal. He put up this post on his social media platform, Truth Social. It's up on your screen, and I will read it to you right now. He said, "We have just been informed that Canada, a very difficult country to trade with, including the fact that they have charged our farmers as much as 400% tariffs for years on dairy products, has just announced that they are putting a digital services tax on our American technology companies, which is a direct and blatant attack on our country. They are obviously copying the European Union, which has done the same thing and is currently under discussion with us also. Based on this egregious tax, we are hereby terminating all discussions on trade with Canada effective immediately. We will let Canada know the tariff that they will be paying to do business with the United States of America within the next 7-day period. Thank you for your attention to this matter." Now, we do know that Prime Minister Mark Carney was certainly paying attention to all this. Our colleague David Thurton caught him outside his office in Ottawa and managed to get a quick answer out of him about just what on earth is going on. Have a listen.
Hi, Prime Minister.
Have you spoken to the president today yet, sir?
No, I didn't speak to the president today.
What do you? Any reaction to the news you put out?
No, look, we'll continue to conduct these complex negotiations in the best interests of Canadians.
I don't know if you could quite hear what he said as he was walking up to the microphone there, but he did say that he has not spoken to Donald Trump today. There is a three-way trade deal between Canada, the U.S., and Mexico. It basically stipulates that Canada can start charging high amounts of tariffs on U.S. dairy products, but only once a certain quota of U.S. dairy is hit. And the U.S. has not hit that quota, so Canada does not actually charge these exorbitant percentages of tariffs on U.S. dairy products.
And that was the CBC's Rafi Boudjikanian in Ottawa. Ontario is bringing the party to the streets this summer, making changes to regulations to allow pubs on wheels in certain cities. Lane Harrison has more.
If you spend much time downtown, you may have seen or heard one of these rolling around. They're known as pedal pubs.
Right now, you can only pedal them to the pubs, but as of July 1st, they'll be able to apply to become rolling bars after Ontario's Attorney General announced these pedal pubs can become licensed establishments and serve alcohol.
Originally, it was just like a whoa, like it's really happening.
The rolling parties can be found in Toronto, Niagara-on-the-Lake, Ottawa, and Windsor. And the regulatory change is expected to be a boon for business.
This is something that people definitely want. You know, a lot of times people will give us a call and they'll say, "Oh, like hi, like I'd like to book a tour for the pedal pub. This looks so much fun. How does the alcohol work? Do I bring my own booze on the bike? Do you sell alcohol? How does that work?" And we say, "Oh, well, there's actually no alcohol allowed on the bike, but we take you to 3 bars." And before I can finish that sentence, they hang up.
In a statement explaining the move, Attorney General Doug Downey saying, "Pedal pubs offer a fun and memorable way to explore Ontario's communities, and we're making sure that experience is responsible." The Ford government touting it as another expansion of alcohol sales in Ontario.
This is the latest in this government's preoccupation with, beer, beer and alcohol. It's perplexing to me that they're choosing to focus on this in the midst of a massive data breach, in the midst of massive healthcare wait times, primary care shortages, massive failure in housing construction, and a cost of living crisis that has spiraled out of control.
But for the industry, the move is nothing but good news. Lane Harrison, CBC News, Toronto.
We're going to take a look outside there. It was a gorgeous Friday to kick off the weekend. We've got more news coming up, so stay with us. Gross domestic product fell slightly in April, and analysts attribute that to the impact of U.S. tariffs. CBC's Anis Hadari reports.
There was less manufacturing happening in Canada in April, at least on a dollar basis, compared to the month before. That's part of the latest numbers out from Statistics Canada. April saw a 0.1% drop in overall GDP.
While it's not a great number,
it's not a big shock to economists.
The economy was dealing with an incredible amount of trade uncertainty through the spring, and the fact that we saw some fairly widespread softening, but especially in manufacturing, doesn't really come as that much surprise.
Manufacturing for transportation equipment took a big blow, possibly due to worries about auto tariffs, causing motor companies to cut back on production. But fear of tariffs may have rushed companies before the spring, with April showing an even bigger slowdown as a result.
The other thing to keep in mind is there was actually a bump in activity at the start of the year as firms were trying to get out ahead of the tariffs. And so now we're seeing a little bit of a pullback from that unusually strong activity in some sectors at the start of the year.
Let's go, Island! One slight bright spot, Canadian hockey teams in the playoffs were part of the largest increase in entertainment GDP in more than 3 years. Today's drop doesn't guarantee a recession is coming, though economists say the GDP may not have hit the bottom yet. Early estimates also show slight shrinkage expected for the month of May. Anis Hadari, CBC News, Calgary.
Israel says it has achieved all its war objectives in Iran, but its campaign in Gaza continues. And a warning, you may find some of the images in this story disturbing. CBC's Tom Perry has the latest from Jerusalem.
Now that Iran and Israel have stopped dropping bombs and firing missiles at each other, the focus is really once again on Gaza and the continuing civilian deaths there. We saw an incident this week, 18 people killed. They'd gathered to try to get aid. This is aid that had been recovered from looters, apparently, by Palestinian police, or this special squad that was put together by Gaza's Interior Ministry to try to take back aid that had been stolen. So these people had gathered, trying to get some of this. There was an Israeli strike, and 18 people were killed. This really underlines these lingering questions about aid getting into Gaza. The Israeli government has really bypassed traditional agencies like the United Nations, really put limits on what the UN can bring in terms of aid. It's gone instead with this new group backed by Israel, backed by the United States, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. It's got a limited number of aid stations. People have to go long distances to get there, to get assistance. They have to go through areas controlled by the Israeli military, and that's led to instances where the Israeli military has fired on people. It says it's firing on suspects. It says it's fired warning shots, but the United Nations has come out with a report saying that more than 400 people have been killed lining up or gathering in these big crowds for assistance. Now, the Haaretz newspaper here in Israel published an explosive article today, quoting unnamed sources, but saying commanders and soldiers in the IDF, quoting them as saying that commanders had ordered soldiers to fire on these civilians lining up for aid to disperse the crowds, even when they weren't a threat. The IDF, the Israel Defense Force, put out really a denial of this. I'm going to read some of it. It says, "We strongly reject the accusations raised in the article. The IDF did not instruct forces to deliberately shoot at civilians." The statement does go on to say, though, that in light of recent reports of incidents of harm to civilians approaching distribution sites, the incidents are being examined by relevant IDF authorities. Tom Perry, CBC News, Jerusalem.
The federal government is asking Washington for more information about the death of a Canadian. The man was facing deportation in the United States. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement says Johnny Noviello died at a detention facility in Florida. The 49-year-old had been detained after serving prison time for drug trafficking and racketeering. He had resident status. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement says the cause of death is under investigation. ICE is detaining and deporting convicted criminals from the U.S. as part of the White House crackdown on migrants. We're going to have your full weather forecast coming up, so stay with us. Colette Kennedy is back with us. Colette, I was talking to a colleague today, and we actually decided that when it's this nice out, working should just be banned on a Friday. Just done.
Nobody do anything.
Exactly.
Nothing will get done. Hey, I know, on a Friday, right? Especially. And here we are with some extreme heat. I mean, we've got the summertime here, and working or not, we're still dipping our toe in this heat warning in place just for southwestern Ontario, Wheatley Island as well. So just this little area because of the temperatures and the humidity, which I'll show you in a second. But I do want to point out again, we've had this in place from Environment Canada through much of the afternoon, a severe thunderstorm watch because of those storms lining up in Michigan and tracking eastward. But there's that current temperature, Windsor at 32, and then, you know, back towards London, Kitchener, just some child's play, some upper 20s, right? Humidex values there only in the mid 30s, but we're talking about some extreme heat with 42, the current feels like reading. So here come these storms, a lot of lightning strikes associated, certainly some heavier downpours and the risk of damaging winds and some hail, but also pulling a little bit further to the north, kind of going around Lake St. Clair, or at least partially. And so as this comes in, it may weaken a little further. We're dry for now, but just be aware that was scattered or to isolated storms still into the evening and early overnight before these all kind of push away from us. And then as we head into Saturday and into the weekend, for some kids starting off their summer, things are actually looking pretty nice. Now we'll have the humidity go up and down a little bit. Tomorrow's actually a little bit better than today, so the heat warning could be dropped before things start going back up again. Sunday, also an isolated shower chance or thunderstorm bubbling up into the later afternoon or early evening. That chance is there, but it should be pretty isolated. And then once we get beyond the weekend and closer to Tuesday, I thought we'd jump in and have a look at our Canada Day forecast. And yeah, through the afternoon, 29, feeling like 34. An early morning thunderstorm risk, but then after that looks good. And for fireworks or whatever you have planned into the evening, that's for 10 o'clock, the temperature down to 24. Tomorrow, 30, feeling like 38. So a humidex value not in the 40s, but it goes back to 40 on Sunday. And then you'll notice through the period, Monday is still pretty humid and sticky. But once we get into Tuesday and Wednesday, it actually helps us out a little bit for Canada Day in bringing that humidity down somewhat.
Oh, that heat. It's going to be good, though. It's going to be nice. Thanks, Colette.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you're welcome.
And thanks, everyone, for watching. Have a really great weekend.
Good night.